Hey, welcome back, friends. It's been a busy past 30 days, past month. It's been busy. But this week specifically has been, not this week, the last two have been just a lot of transition, a lot of change in our lives. So it's all been for the good. And so I haven't been able to jump on here and make any videos. I was able to find a work from home position, so I started that and I'm doing that and I enjoy it. So I am excited to see where that takes us. We're all doing good and we are just living and serving Yah and continuing to live our lives and separate more and more. So it gets difficult at times, financially tight, but we just continue to trust Yah and just believe that He is our provider, and where He guides, He provides, and He protects us, and He is good all the time. So we're gonna jump right back into our mini-series on the words of Yah. And the last video I uploaded was on the first word, and you're gonna see how much these words cover and how much of the scripture and translation we lose when we just read it in the English language. The word would be 3 to 4 times bigger and more in depth than what it actually is when we actually dig into the Paleo Hebrew scripts, the Hebrew scripts. So it's pretty amazing, and I think you're gonna see today what that actually looks like. And I know in my first one we were able to dig into depth on that one and actually see, wow, how much these words actually do cover. These commandments cover entirety of our lives. So let's jump right into this. My desire is to always be obedient and willing to hear and listen for the Father's voice. And these commandments, these words that He has given unto us for life and for barakah in our lives, are very deep, and they cover a lot of ground. And whether you want to believe it or not, they are for our good and to prosper us and to keep us from the way of evil. And that is how we are to look at these things, because that is why He gave them to us. I know many people want to argue and say that the Torah has been nailed to the cross, right? But Yahushua said Himself that I did not come to destroy the Torah, but or the prophets, not one word, but to fulfill it, to make it abound, to fill it up to the brim. That's what that word fulfill. It's plero, to fill up to the brim, to make it abound, to cause it to come into effect all the more. I've not come to destroy it nor kill it, nor nail it to a cross. And the Father says that He has given Him for our brother and our example, so that we can know how to live our lives, how to follow in his footsteps. And it's very simple when you put it in that light and you think, man, I'm not really sure how to live my life. Well, he gave us an example, and that is Yahushua HaMashiach, our Mashiach, our Adonai. And Adonai is our teacher, okay, our master. Now, Yahushua said, you're not greater than me. If I'm your master, you're not greater than your master. You have to take up your own cross. Now, what does that mean? How do we take up a cross in our lives? Well, you start following the commandments and obeying them, and you're going to see that persecution will come your way. That hatred will be towards you from others, from people who you love. And I can go into this further, but we have definitely experienced persecution in our lives from my own family, from my husband's family, from ex-friends. People will despise you and hate you. And I don't go around pushing my beliefs on anyone. I simply have come to the conclusion that I do not choose to be unequally yoked with anyone. And Yahushua said it himself. Who is my family? Who is my mother, my brothers, my sisters? And he pointed to his Talmudim, to his learned ones, to his disciples. And he said, look, see my mother and my brothers and my sisters. For he who does the will of my Father in the Shamayim, they are my brothers and my sisters and my family. So, everyone talks about don't be unequally yoked, and they think that means don't hang out with sinners. Now, Yahushua was around sinners, and they loved him. They loved to be around him because he shared with them the good news. He showed them the love that no one else showed them. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, however, you don't want to surround yourself with evil people, because you will be like those that you surround yourself with if you don't have the strength to withstand that evil. I don't like surrounding myself with people who don't have relativity to me. So if, I don't try to find friends. I don't push my way to find friends. In fact, I have made a resolution in my mind, in my heart, that I don't need friends. I don't need people in my life who are going to be oppositional to the way I live. And that's okay too, because I have my family, and I know it's harder for others who don't have anyone, So I can relate to a lot of people who lose family and friends over their beliefs, and that has been my entire past 2 years. 3 or 4 years, actually. So, you will be hated, by all for his name's sake. Okay? So, I can fully relate to those things, and in fact, the reason why we've had so much transition, so much change in our lives is because our beliefs. The light will expel the darkness. It will. It just takes a matter of time. It's only a matter of time that will happen. And I have I don't celebrate these holidays. I don't partake and get caught up in the affairs of this life any longer. So I sort of just separate, and we do our own thing. And my children and Taylor, we do our own thing. We don't push our views on anyone. But that causes a rift. You don't go and spend Christmas with the family, or you don't reach out and say Merry Christmas or Happy Halloween or Happy Thanksgiving. People get angry. Even if you're not pushing anything on anyone, they get angry. They call you religious. I've been called occultist because of my beliefs, and that's okay too. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I don't hold a grudge. I just continue to separate and pray for my enemies, forgive my enemies. I'm not going to argue. You have the right to believe whatever it is you choose to believe, and that is the reason why I have the right to my free choice, to my free will, because Abba Father has granted that unto all men and women and children. So I'll maybe get into that a little bit more later, but once again, it goes back to there are stakes or crosses to pick up and to carry in our lives. There's going to be hardship, loneliness, burdens, times of unsurety where you feel like you're not sure how you're going to make it, but then Abba always makes a way for you, and he takes care of you when you obey his commandments, when you treasure his commandments. Look at David. Yeah, he was a king of Israel, but he was loved by his people, but he was hated by many. His enemies were more than his friends. But yet, because even when he strayed, he said he would cry out to Abba and tell him, I've sinned. My tears soak my bed at night because I have sinned. So when we come back to him and we, choose his way over our own, he will forgive. He's merciful, and he's so gracious, so precious. I love Abba. He's been with me the whole way, through the loneliness, through the grief, through the sorrow, through the quiet nights, through the hard days. He's been there as a comfort, as a father, as a friend. And I've had a lot of that, but he's been truer than my sadness, than my sorrow, than my grief, than my difficulties, than my hardships. He's been truer. His love has been truer than all of that. And he has mercy, great compassion. So it's wonderful to be able to live in his love, even if the path is rocky and hard. He makes a way. So those are the crosses that we have to carry, and there will be many more to come. Persecution has not been known in this country, but persecution in our individual lives, the more we adhere to his ways and choose to leave the entanglement of this world behind us, the more we will experience that persecution in our lives. From all around us, I've lost everyone, except I've gained my husband, Taylor, and faith, and more assurance in Yah, even more character building, more patience, more endurance, more perseverance, to do things that are difficult, that seem impossible, but He makes a way. So those are some things that I've experienced as my own crosses, and I've had to pick those up and follow Him. And He experienced the same things, He experienced all of it. He went through it all. So don't let anyone tell you this Torah has been done away with. In fact, the scriptures, the scriptures are what we have derived many maxims of law from. And a maxim of law is like a settlement in law. That is a maxim of law. Don't harm anybody. Don't be adulterous. If you do, your wife can divorce you. So don't do those things that are against his Torah. This is his Torah is where, a major stability in the law and natural law of this land comes from. In fact, the 10 Commandments was in the public schools, for a very long time, until they decided to take those out. So it has not been done away with. It is a forever Torah. It is until heaven and earth passes away. Not one jot or tittle shall by any means pass away from the Torah. Okay, second commandment. Devarim, which is Deuteronomy 5, verse 7. Verse 8 is the second. You do not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of which is in the Shamayim above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. So that is the English translation of the second commandment. Now, let's go into what this commandment is actually saying in its original form. What this covers. Because what does that mean? What do you mean don't make yourself a carved image? I don't make any carved images. I'm not a carver of wood, right? I have not made any images. So I'm following the commandment, right? Not exactly. This leaves much to the imagination and to the unknowing until we go into the actual meaning of each word. Okay? Now, instead of doing what I did last time, which was break down each word as I was here, I've already gone through these words and broken them down. So I've already done that. So now I'm going to read to you what all of this means put into one sentence, into one paragraph, really. Okay. Devarim 5:8. So in the Hebrew, I'm going to try to read it. Lo ta'achse lecha fesel kol temuna aksher bash shamayim mi makal bakasher bakaretz mit tachat vakaksher bam mayim mit tacha la'akretz. Okay? I hope I said those correctly. And let's see what that means. Each of those words when we dig into all the meanings that these words are really saying. Ready? It is absolutely prohibited, and you are to never fashion or accomplish or make or produce. You are not to attend or appoint or act with effect, to put in order or observe or celebrate or ordain or institute, or to use or spend or acquire or make an offering for yourself to any deeply fixed or impressed graven idols, or images of which is whole, or of each of anything and altogether of any manner or whatsoever, of any form or likeness. Any representation that is fashioned out as a shape or phantom or embodiment or manifestation or similitude of that which is or who is, according to or after or like any gender and number that is in the sky or atmosphere, that has an abode in the visible universe of the stars or heavens or celestial bodies or air, or anything lofty that is in the upper part or the higher part, that exceeds upward and overhead and above the ground, or whatsoever is in the land of its inhabitants, countries, territories, districts, states, city, tribal territory, any region or place of ground, or any surface of the earth, or ends of the earth, in the land of the living, or in Sheol, the land without return, or any people of that land at the foot of their sweetness, to any woman, or for the sake of subjection or conquest or burden or oppression, or in exchange for, or in return for, or anything in the waters of danger and violence and transitory things, or of semen or urine or floods and springs, or of deep washings, or in wasting waters under the earth. Did you get that? Did you hear that? Wow. So, do you see how much this one commandment covers? It says, you are never, it is prohibited. It is absolutely prohibited. And you are never to fashion or accomplish or make or produce. You are not to attend or appoint or act with effect, to put in order, to observe or celebrate or ordain or institute, or to use or spend or acquire. See, he's covering all these. He already knew that all this was going to happen, because it was already happening. Like, there's nothing new under the sun, right? That's what that means. That's what that saying means. There's nothing new under the sun. What has been shall be again. What has been shall be again. And it is. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. They were filthy and perverted. What are we now? What is this nation coming to? There's a lot of videos I can't post on YouTube, and I need to get over to Rumble to make my channel so that I can post these videos that are these things that are happening in our country. The children are being educated in this system to be perverts, to be disgusting, to be gays and gross. So that's why he has given us his word, so that we can know what to look out for. We're not to do any of these things. We're not to celebrate these things or ordain. We're not to place our lives around. These are all sacrifices, spiritual sacrifices, to demons. And he's telling us, he's covering everything. Nothing in the atmosphere, nothing that is lofty, nothing that has made its abode above, and nothing that is in the waters, nothing that is under the earth. Nothing. You're not to fashion your life around this. You're not to ordain days for these things. You're not to do any of this. You are to stay faithful to me, he says. Stay faithful to me. That's all he asks of us and commands of us, is to be faithful to him. To be for him, not against him. Because if we're not for him, then we are against him. And those are the only two options. There's no in between. You know? People don't like hearing that. It's okay. It's not my responsibility to convince anybody of anything. I, though, am convinced that I must abstain. I must separate. I must not be a part of those things. Must not. So, rewind this video and listen to that commandment again. Listen to that translation again, because I've dug into every single word. Do not make for yourself a carved image. What's a carved image? Well, I just told you. Or any likeness of which is in any likeness. That word likeness and carved image and likeness, and of which, those words cover so much ground. Did you just hear it? In the Shamayim above, that covers so much ground. And when you just read it in the English translation like that, it doesn't really say, it leaves much to the imagination, right? It leaves much to be uncovered. But you dig into the Hebrew word of what it's actually saying, it leaves nothing to the imagination. It leaves nothing uncovered. So, anyone who says that it's not important to find out what the actual meaning of these words mean is speaking out of ignorance, because there's lots in these words. Lots of meaning in these words. And we've got to get back to doing our due diligence to find out, what is he expecting of us? What does he want us to do? This is not anybody else's responsibility to teach us what we need to learn. It's our own to know. Because he's told us here, but we have been deceived through the English language, the weak tongue. We've been deceived. And if you say we have not, go and find out for yourself, and then come and tell me that we have not. These names like God goes back to the word Gad, a god of fortune, a deity of fortune. This word Jesus goes back to a goddess of healing. Okay? These are weak tongues. You know? That's why the Catholic Church is so comfortable using the name Jesus. That's why demons are so comfortable using the word Jesus. Because these are deities of lower rank. We've been deceived. Yahuwah said, my name will be in my bane. He will be in him. Yahushua is Mashiach. And it does matter what name you use. Because if your name is John and I'm calling you Paul, well, I'm not calling you, right? You're not going to turn around. Because that's not your name. You're not going to respond to a non-name. You're going to say, oh, they're not talking to me. Talking to Paul. My name's John. It matters. It does matter. Surely does. But I'm not going to argue with people about it. Because everyone has to do their own due diligence and get their own revelation from Abba. So, that is the second commandment. That is the second word. Hallelujah for the truth. Hallelujah.